Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. So, this week, Update 60 had its first preview, and there were some big XP changes that were proposed. So, we're going to go into that. We're going to break it down. They had the original proposal for this week, and just today, which is June 23rd, they partially retracted it and introduced some revised numbers. So we'll go into that. We'll break it all down. But okay, let's get into the main topic here. So Update 60 had a few other things on preview besides these XP changes. So we had the Macro Technic, which is the new Artificer themed Epic Destiny, was on preview. I'm not going to talk about that here, but that's on preview. We also had Monster AI changes, Rune Arm changes, Dungeon Alert changes. But the biggest, as I said before, the biggest topic by far has been these XP changes. So let's go through the different facets of this. So let's start with the Dungeon Alert changes. So here's what one of the developers posted here on Lamania this week. They are proposing some changes to make Dungeon Alert more severe. So to give you some backstory on this, in Update 59, the last update, they made some changes to system performance. And if you all remember, there was a big hype with the community that, hey, in Update 59, there's going to be a massive decrease in lag. They're making these major lag changes. And then it turned out in practice to be kind of a nothing burger. At least that was my experience. Kind of didn't see a big difference in lag personally. However, what the devs have said is that in response to the lag changes they made in Update 59, there's been an increase in player speed. So players are apparently, according to them, they are playing faster, they're zerging harder, and that as a result is causing more strain on the server. So they're saying essentially that yes, the Update 59 changes did work to improve performance, but in response, players started zerging more, essentially, which basically canceled out and maybe even made worse those lag changes. So they're trying to address that by making changes to Dungeon Alert and incentivizing you to kill mobs in dungeons. So the first aspect of that is the Dungeon Alert. So here's the changes that they're proposing. Again, this is all just proposed. Nothing is final at this point. So this could change. This is subject to change, but the DA changes. So here, Torque said, we are updating Dungeon Alert to put some bite back into the system, which has not scaled well against the ever-increasing player power over the years. Most of these changes focus on Red Alert, which is really the alert we want you, the player, to avoid. So here we go. Here's the changes. Number one, monster movement speed bonuses have been increased for all DA levels by about 20% because players have access to a lot more movement effects than they did back in the day. So monsters under DA are going to be faster than they are currently under DA. On Red Alert, monsters will gain true sight. So that means that they'll be able to bypass any concealment bonuses you have like blur or displacement. On 3 on Red Alert, all monsters will gain 25% dodge penetration and a very large hit bonus while flanking. And flanking means if they're behind you. Number 4 on Red Alert, monsters who have been crowd controlled will break free in 6 seconds, will break free faster and faster for every time they are CC'd. So essentially, monsters will be more dangerous. If you don't know what Dungeon Alert is, that is when you see the little like red or yellow skull pop up. Essentially, Dungeon Alert exists in the game to prevent lag. That is essentially what it is. When you aggravate too many monsters in the dungeon, when you get too many attacking you without you killing them, it causes Dungeon Alert. That's basically the game trying to get you to kill the monsters because not killing the monsters is straining the server, and that's one of the problems they're having right now is players are playing faster, players are running past monsters, they're aggroing monsters, not killing them, or making it so the monsters create a path to the player, but they're not killing them, which is a big strain on system resources, apparently, and that's the problem we're trying to address. So the first aspect of this change, which is the Dungeon Alert changes, is trying to make DA more dangerous so that you aren't as prone to zerg through the dungeon without killing monsters. What the devs want you to do to keep the servers functioning properly is to generally to kill monsters as you go through the dungeon. That's generally the intention. I know the devs have said a lot here this week that they don't want to change how players play, things like that, but I think it's fair to say that generally, they want you to be killing the mobs as you go through the dungeon, if nothing else, so that the server doesn't get laggy for everyone else. Okay, so that's the DA changes. Now let's get to preview 1, and this is the old changes before they updated them today, which today is June 23rd. So before I do that, though, I want to show you this quote. This is a quote from the developer here, and this is how we know that essentially player speed has increased from the prior update. So this is Cordovan talked here about in response to player speed. He says that on all worlds is both a significant increase in completion speed in addition to a larger pool of players achieving these speeds. So players are playing faster. That's one of the causes of one of the things incentivizing or pushing the developers to make these changes. Okay. All right. Let's get to Lamania preview number 1. So this is at the beginning of this week. This was the original changes. So a lot of these numbers have changed, but I want to go over the top part here, which is sort of the same. Okay, so Torque said we are doing some updates to the XP system to increase incentives for killing monsters and to make it less confusing. This all ties into a series of changes to make running past large numbers of encounters a less desirable behavior because of what it does to our servers due to pathing costs. So that's what I was talking about before. Monsters being aggroed by players, but they're not killing them. So you have a lot of monsters, pathing to the player or running after you in the dungeon. So one thing they're doing is bravery bonus is being renamed delving bonus. So Dev here explains this is mostly so people coming back to the game don't still think they need to worry about streaks, which came up a bit when we tried to talk about this to our surprise. So if you don't know what they're referring to here, so bravery bonus, this is a change they made, I don't know, a few years ago, I believe. But bravery bonus used to be based on repetitive completion. So to keep your bravery bonus back in the day, you had to keep playing elite. And if you dropped down, you would have to play a certain number of quests until you built up to that max bonus on successive quests. So that's not the case anymore. This is a change they made. Like I said, I think it was a few years ago. Someone maybe can post below on YouTube and tell me the exact date. But now the way it works is it doesn't matter if you say do a quest on elite, do it on normal, then come back on elite. The bravery bonus is just a set amount, and you get, even if you run on hard, you get say like 25%. So you get part of your bonus and you'll get the rest on elite. It doesn't, the system currently does no longer factors into it. It doesn't matter now if you do everything on elite. You don't have to do that anymore. So it's just a flat bonus that you get for completing the difficulties. It's not dependent on what you've done previously to playing that quest on elite or hard. Okay, so that's a change they made. They're renaming it delving bonus just to help with that confusion, because a lot of players still think they have to continuously play stuff on elite to get full bravery bonus, which is not the case anymore. So they're renaming it delving bonus to hopefully help with that. Number 2, the first time bonus that appears for difficulty is being removed. So this is a big change. So right now there's a large first time bonus. So this is the bonus right now, as you can see below here, the first time bonus for Reapers 95%, Elite 45%, and Solo Casual Normal Hard 20%. So that's the first time bonus. That's a big percentage XP modifier you would get on the first time you play. That is being removed. So that has some not good effects and some not so good effects, which we'll get into later. But they're removing it from the first time bonus, and they're adding it back into other parts of the other parts of the calculation. So they're not removing it, not adding it back. They are adding it back, but they're adding it back in different ways. The most notable and the biggest way they're adding it back is through conquest. So that is the bonus you get for killing monsters. So we're going to get more into that here in a bit. So is there anything else I need to go over here? I don't think so, because the numbers change. So let's go to the next tab here. So this is the post from today, which is again June 23rd. Okay, so here's some changes. So I'm not going to show you the old numbers because they're irrelevant now, but people weren't happy with the initial proposal by the devs here, because it put a massive emphasis on conquest, to the point that it would have in practice been in many quests, if not most quests, a large XP per minute nerf, because there's so many quests where it's hard to achieve conquest bonus in particular, because the quest is large and you have to go out of your way, or some quests it's not even really achievable, it's just not achievable. I think Haberdasher is one of those. You all correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some where it's just not achievable. But essentially, conquest in most, as it exists currently on live, it's in many quests. You can't really achieve it by just going from point A, from the start of the quest to the end of the quest. You kind of have to go out of your way. So as a result, to get conquest, it's going to really slow down your XP per minute, because you have to spread out. You have to go do optionals, things like that really normally aren't worth the XP per minute for players. So you would have to go out of your way, do all that stuff to get conquest. So in result, even though on paper, in their first proposal, it was a net neutral change, on paper. In practice, it would be a massive nerf to XP per minute, just because it would take so much longer to achieve conquest versus just getting it through a first time bonus, which obviously doesn't result in you putting forward any more effort, which conquest does. So that's the big thing to start here. So let's just read Torque's updated post from today. So an updated proposal from feedback and additional work on the hot topic. This is, by the way, this was a very hot topic. This is one of the hottest topics I've seen in years. There was tons of player feedback from this, and obviously, as you can mention, from the first proposal, the feedback was overwhelmingly negative. But let's continue here. This is an early preview of what Preview 2 might look like. To recap, our goal here is to make monsters a bit more worth killing, because again, the whole point of this is they want you to kill. They want to incentivize players to kill monsters in the dungeon to help with lag. So their goal here is to make monsters a bit more worth from an XP perspective using the conquest bonus. We also want to clean up some of the confusion in first time bonus. We got feedback. Let's see. We got feedback on a mess of issues, but the one thing that came across is conquest is busted in many places. So I talked about that. So like Haberdasher, among others. And even when it's not busted, it's often considered not worth it because you need to go off the critical path. Therefore, point A, start of dungeon to end of dungeon, and there are fears the XP per minute will slow significantly. So, in response to all that feedback, he says, we are changing our approach and are using the lower, well, they aren't actually really changing their approach, they're just tweaking the numbers to make it more favorable to players than it was before. But they are also using the lowest conquest threshold of aggressor as a more of a balance point. So we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so this stuff is the same that I already went forward. So the renaming bravery bonus to delving bonus, the first time bonuses are being removed. Okay, so big change here. So conquest, aggressor, and onslaught bonus are being boosted, and the thresholds changed. So here are the new values for conquest, onslaught, and aggression. So the old requirement to get conquest was you had to kill 80% of the mobs in quests. That's going to be reduced slightly to 75%, so it's a little easier to achieve. Onslaught, which was kind of the next tier below conquest, the old requirement was 65% of the mobs you had to kill. Now it's 50, so that's it's going to make that easier to achieve. Aggression is going to actually be, which is the lowest tier here, is actually twice as easy to achieve because it's going to go from 50% of the mobs you have to kill all the way down to 25. So I'm going to show you a spreadsheet where I break all this down here in a second, and we'll go through all that more. But some other comments that Torque has here. The threshold to reach a bonus are being lowered, so we talked about that. B, the dungeons with extremely large monster counts will get addressed. So players brought up things like Temple of Elemental Evil, Invitation to Dinner, so large dungeons where it would be extremely time consuming and terrible XP per minute to get conquest if conquest was as big of emphasis as it was in the first proposal by the devs here. So he says they're going to take a look at those and make tweaks. They didn't say when, but they said they'll be addressed. They said broken quests, so I think Haberdasher here, Vault Dragon Fight, so I'm not sure exactly what quest he's referring to there, but I think Haberdasher, him mentioning here, I think is one where you actually can't get conquest, I believe, is the case with Haberdasher. So he says ones that like that will get fixed. They're going to look at high density dungeons and possibly make changes, but it was kind of general, nothing too crazy. Say Reaper XP, he talked a little bit about Reaper XP here, but this is more about display changes and such. So I'm not going to go too much into this, but I will say that they're going to display a few things like Reaper XP will now display before getting your 10 kills. So currently you have to get 10 kills to get any Reaper XP. They're going to display the Reaper bonus, 200% first time bonus in the quest panel when it applies, and state that that this is being used instead of delving. And C, this is probably the biggest thing, most notable thing here is we are looking at making the Reaper 200% bonus apply separately for heroic and epic legendary, so you can play something Reaper on heroic and on legendary without screwing yourself up out of the 30+ level bonus later. All right, so I think that's it for this. So I want to hop over now to my spreadsheet so I can go over all this and the practical effects, because they break it down here in this table, but they mainly only show conquest, and I want to break it down to show the other scenarios. So let's hop over to my spreadsheet. Okay, and hopefully my webcam doesn't hide too much of this, but and this is a little number crunchy, but I'm going to make it as easy as easy as I can to explain. So let me go into accountant mode here. So First thing I have to say, these breakdowns I'm showing are for Reaper mode only and for regular XP and Reaper mode only. I'm not considering this. This is not entirely reflective of Reaper XP because bravery bonus, among other things, don't apply to Reaper XP, but they do apply to regular XP. And I just, for time's sake, for this video, I didn't want to go over everything. I just wanted to show kind of the basis, the thing most people are interested in, which is regular XP. So that's what I'm going to show here. I would have to do another set of numbers to show Reaper XP because it would change a little bit. The other thing, I'm only showing Reaper mode. All these numbers are only Reaper mode, so I'm not breaking down elite, hard, normal. Numbers would change a bit. I picked Reaper to show here for time, just for time reasons, essentially. I'm sorry if you don't play Reaper and you only play elite, but I really only had time today to break down and make this spreadsheet for one difficulty mode, and I chose Reaper since it's by far the most popular, in the game right now. Also, you have to take into account that when I make these comparisons, these include the reduced kill thresholds. So conquest, onslaught, aggression were all made easier to achieve. So you can't one-to-one compare the numbers from old system, which is currently on live, to new, because you have to also keep in mind that these bonuses may be bigger or larger, but they are easier to achieve under the new system. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right. And actually, they're all, for the most part, larger when it comes to these. Actually, they're all larger when it comes to the kill bonuses. Okay, so I have two lines here. I have first run and repeated runs. So there's a big difference in that this new system they're proposing, as it exists now, it will buff XP that you get on repeated runs. Okay, on first runs, however, it may not. So the big one, and this is the one that developers showed in their post, was Conquest. So this is the first scenario here. The first scenario here is showing if you get Conquest, which again is 75% of mobs, and to go over this again, the kill thresholds have changed, okay, from Conquest, Onslaught, and Aggression. So old system, which is currently live, the thresholds for getting Conquest was 80%, Onslaught 65% of mobs killed, Aggression 50%. The new system, which is what I'm showing here in parentheses, is Conquest, you kill 75% of mobs, Onslaught 50%, Aggression 25%. So it is easier to achieve on all levels, and not too much easier on Conquest, but for Onslaught and particularly Aggression, it's much easier to achieve. So keep that in mind. All right, so comparison. First scenario here. Let's say it's your first round of a quest and you get Conquest. So that's going to be our assumption here. And this is going to be a comparison of the old system in the new system. Also, this doesn't show, I just copied and pasted what the developer showed. For some reason, they didn't show a daily bonus, which it doesn't matter because it's the same under both systems, as are most of these things, the same under both system, like Ransack, for example. So it doesn't matter that it's not shown here. It's not going to change the differences in the numbers, by the way, because it's the same under both current on live and the proposed from the developers. And again, these numbers are all reflective of today's update, which is June 23rd, from SSG. All right. So first scenario, Conquest, kill 75% of mobs. Under the old system, you would get a 25% kill bonus because that was the bonus under the old system for Conquest. So that's the Conquest bonus under the old system. Under the new system, if you get Conquest, you will get 100% bonus. So it's a huge additional emphasis on Conquest. You get a much bigger bonus if you get Conquest. However, under the new system, they're getting rid of the first-time bonus. So that 95% first-time bonus that you would have gotten for Reaper on your first run is now down to 0 because they're taking that out and adding it back into other things. And for Reaper particularly, they're adding it back into the Bravery bonus, which is now being called Delving bonus, and the Kill bonus. So that's where it's going. It's not like they're taking out the first-time bonus and not putting it back in. They are putting it back in, but it's not going. It's going to be put back in different ways. All right. Everything else says the same, like Ransack, Tome of Learning, Tamper, Observance, all that stuff stays the same. So essentially what this means, once you take out the 95% modifier for first-time bonus and you add back in the 75 increase for kill bonus and the 50% increase for delving bonus, you're going to see an additional 30% modifier under the new system as compared to the old system. So yeah, so that's good in some ways because you can get more XP, but the argument will be which quest is it worth the XP per minute difference, because under the old system you may be getting 30% less possible XP on the modifier, but you got it in ways that were basically didn't require you to put forward additional effort. So like Conquest, much more of it being in Conquest means you're gonna have to kill mobs. Devs are trying to compensate for that by lowering the thresholds for kills and doing additional work on the bigger open dungeons like Temple of Elemental Evil, like they've discussed. So that's what the discussion is right now. How much will this affect XP per minute? How will it affect players? How will it affect leveling? How will it reflect player attitudes and play styles? That's the debate. So feel free, go to the forums, chime in with your thoughts. But let's go over the other scenarios, because the devs showed this scenario, but they didn't show the other scenarios, which are not as positive. Okay. So if you get Onslaught, which under the new system is killing 50% of mobs in a quest, you are going to see almost the same total XP as before, but minus 10 percent less modifier here. So under the new system, you would get a 50% onslaught bonus. Under the old system, it was 15. You, of course, will not get the first time bonus under any scenario here. Under the new system, you'll get your 150 bravery bonus on the new system, and everything else is the same. So you'll see your total modifier go down about 10%. So moving on to aggression. Again, this is first run. You're going to see minus 30 and then minus 45 if you get no kill bonus, because so much more emphasis is now put on the kill bonus. Okay, so if you're not getting that kill bonus, you're going to get penalized more and more here. Okay, so yeah, so let's go down to repeated runs. So this is where things are a little more positive, but I think the question really comes at how easy is it going to be to get, say, a conquest or onslaught bonus? Particularly onslaught. I think that may be the sweet spot here, because that will be like almost the same. I mean, a little bit less than the old system, but how easy is it to kill 50% of mobs? What changes will the devs make, particularly in the large dungeons? I don't know about you guys, but I don't really pay attention to conquest bonuses or kill bonuses in quests. So I need to do a better job of paying attention to how often I'm getting onslaught to really have a good idea of how much of an XP per minute buff or nerf or neutral change this will be for me. Okay, let's now go to repeated runs. So one of the things that will have a positive impact on players in terms of how much XP they can get is you will see a lot more XP attainable through repeated runs under the new system. Why? Well, because so much more of that total XP modifier you can get from quests is going to go into the kill bonus as opposed to the first time bonus. And the kill bonus is attainable on repeated runs, whereas the first time bonus obviously was not and is not under the current system. So that means you're going to see a massive buff on repeated runs for XP. So while this may be kind of a benefit to players, I kind of worry, because I think that dailies having gone away as being a thing over the last several years, or at least it's decreased a lot, has been a good thing for players. I think it prevents player burnout. And I don't think it's particularly healthy for the game to incentivize like farming quests daily, but that's gonna be the case. I think we'll see more return to dailies under the new system if this goes through under the current numbers, just because you can achieve that conquest bonus. So I kind of worry about players picking a handful of quests that have easy to achieve conquest bonuses and like hitting those every day. But just to show you the numbers, the only changes for repeated runs is obviously the delving bonus, which is the old bravery bonus, is not achievable on repeated runs, and the first time bonus obviously didn't exist under the old system or the new system under repeated runs. Okay, on repeated runs, because it's a one-time bonus only. All right, so under the new system, if you get conquest on a repeated run, you're going to see a 108 modifier under the old system changed to 183. So you're going to get basically a 75% additional modifier possible compared to what you had before. Now, keep in mind that even if this is still going to be a lot less XP than the repeated run, even if you're not, say, on the first run, let's say you get no kill bonus under the new system, you're still going to get a 233 modifier versus, say, a 183. So you're still, even in worst case scenario, you're still going to get quite a lot additional on, say, even a no kill bonus. And if you compare it to a conquest first time run versus a conquest repeated run, you're going to see 333 compared to 183. So you're still going to see a lot more XP on a first run, but you will, as compared to the old system, get a lot more XP on repeated runs as compared to repeated runs on the old system. So new system repeated runs are going to be a lot more beneficial than the old system. So repeated runs will be rewarded more. You can also see this as it changes if you get onslaught and aggression. So it's still positive, the change. 75% additional mod for conquest, 35 for onslaught, and 15 for aggression. Yeah, guys, so that's essentially the numbers here. And I'm pretty sure I got all these right, but you all tell me if there's any mistakes in the numbers. I don't think there is. I double checked it, but if there is, tell me. But yeah, that's essentially the breakdown. Again, the questions that community has is how will this impact XP per minute? So go in, chime in on the forums, tell them what you think. Keep in mind, I'm sure they don't want to ruin players' experiences, but they also have to juggle that with the fact that according to their tools that they have, which are observing lag on the servers, it has gotten worse or increased, or player activity has increased. So they need to find some way to keep players happy, but at the same time get them running at the speeds they were running at pre-update 59. So what's my overall opinion? I think they should scrap this for now, put it on the back burner, and put in the DA changes. So the goal of these changes is to get players to go to pre U59 questing levels in terms of speed, right? So how about this? This is what I posted this on the forums on the thread, this idea. But my proposal for the devs is, let's put this on the back burner, these XP changes, just focus on DA. I like the idea of making DA more punishing as opposed to touching XP, because that directly addresses the problem. Not that players are going to like that either, not that I like it, but making it so DA is less of a thing you want to build up is probably the way to address this problem. So, make it slow down players more, make mobs more dangerous on red alert, like directly slow down players by getting hit on red alert. Make that easier, as it does that now, but make it easier for that to happen to your character. Make it so you really don't want to build up red DA, while at the same time the devs need to go through quests and iron out any potential instant DA scenarios, which there are some, like where you just walk into a room and instantly you get red DA. They need to go back and iron that out so that doesn't happen. But generally, I think the way to go, if they must do this to reduce lag on the servers, I think the way to do it is, let's just approach the problem with DA, because that doesn't mess with XP. It's not going to upset players nearly as much. Just make DA more dangerous. See how the player speed responds from those DA changes. They may need to make them more severe than what was proposed in Lamani in terms of the DA changes. And then let's reevaluate. And if they have to go to XP, then okay. But I feel like they can probably achieve this by just making DA changes as opposed to touching XP. Okay. So yeah, guys, comment below. Let me know what you think. Go over to Lawnia forums. Keep it civil, please. Please keep it civil, guys. A lot of the comments have not been civil over there, but try to keep it civil and tell them what you think, because now is the time to let them know. Because once this kind of stuff goes into the game, it's probably not going to change. So this is the time where they're actually willing to change the numbers. Before I go, I want to say thank you to Patreons, Robert Ray, Brent Erickson, Ryan Alsey, and Rouge Rogue. If you would like to join my Patreon and contribute to this channel, you can check that out in my link tree below. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me. Have a good one. Take care. Good night.